आज राम्रै भेटघाट जुराउनु भयो हाम्रो प्रमोद भाइले।
Distinguished panelists, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the joint webinar of Center for Diplomacy and Development and Nepal Institute for International Cooperation and Engagement on emerging security challenges in Nepal. To speak on this interesting topic, we have excellent panelists. Before we start, let me announce a few housekeeping rules. All our speakers are made co-host, which means they can unmute themselves whenever they want to speak. At the same time, they can record the video. Second, each speaker will have 15 minutes, and then there will be question and answers. All our participants will be in mute mode. They cannot speak to us, hence they will have to type the question in the chat box or in Facebook Live. Please keep your questions short, as we will be giving preference to short and sharp questions. To start the program, may I now invite Mr. Mohan Krishna Shrestha, founding president of CDD and former Nepalese ambassador to France, to deliver welcome remarks.
Thank you, Pramod ji. Sir. Dear audience and friends at home and abroad, namaste, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. On behalf of the Center for Diplomacy and Development and Nepal Institute for International Cooperation and Engagement, I'd like to extend my cordial thanks and appreciation to all of you for attending this joint webinar today. Since we have started reaching the people through webinar, we are very happy to note that thousands of people are watching our programs in our country and in other countries also. We hope our programs must have given some knowledge and intellectual nourishment on the issues we have covered. This is our 6th webinar, and today's topic is very important, as all of you know. Today, we have invited very eminent persons like Lieutenant General retired Bala Nanda Sharma, Vice Chancellor of National Defense University, Honorable Deepak Bhattacharya, Member of Parliament, Dr. Vishnu Raju Preti, Chairperson of Policy Research Institute, and Professor Sangeeta Taplia from India. We thank them for kind acceptance to our invitation, as well as for their cooperation. Security is a very sensitive issue and most important for everyone and the country. We therefore will be hearing a lot of ideas and realities pertaining to security issues in our country from such distinguished speakers today. Dear audience and friends, now may I take this opportunity to share with you some of my own ideas on security issues. Born as a human being, everyone needs security after foods for survival. In a lack of security, no one can live in peace and remain stable. Security is a complex issue and its magnitude reaches far and wide. While we think from personal perspectives, we need security each and every day. We need security for food, health, education, employment, and housing, etc. We need security at all times to protect from the scourge of disease, natural disasters, crimes, and from terrorist attacks. In recent years, there have been many terrorist attacks in many countries where civilians have been affected. Their precious lives have been lost for no cause. This is a very pitiable situation needing quick actions for protection. This must guarantee the security for every citizen in our country and beyond. At the macro level, state security must be geared for the protection of the sovereignty and territorial integrity. A capable government always protects its territories. Tight and well-maintained social and economic. With changing times, security issues have also changed dramatically. Weak and developing countries remain always vulnerable from security points. So there is an absolute need for states to beef up its security apparatus at all times. In our case also, Nepal is a landlocked country with 3 sides being bordered by India and upper northern side by Tibet Autonomous Region of China. In view of the geographical notion, our country has been portrayed as a yam between 2 boulders by our ancestors. That means a yam needs to be vigilant at all times from boulders. We need to uphold our position very skillfully and deal with the big neighbors with utmost diplomatic acumen. We must enjoy the friendship and cooperative attitude of both our neighbors. At a global scale, with the opening of the world to the changing times, security issues have received much attention and care. Our world at the moment is facing health pandemic from corona, which is termed as the invisible enemy of the human race. It is very scary and it had taken a heavy toll, yet without any guaranteed cure. Moreover, humanity at large is always facing the dangers from natural and man-made threats. Our world is always facing the dangers from the weapons of mass destruction, nuclear arsenals, terrorist attacks, and in many forms and manifestations, cyber crimes, and many more. On top of that, our world is also fraught with chasm between rich and poor, underdevelopment, poverty, diseases, inter and intra-wars, and many other socioeconomic maladies. We should always keep in mind that we have 3 nuclear power countries in our vicinity. Peace and mutual understanding are therefore always needed in our region to provide peace and security for almost half of the world's population. Dear audience, let us now listen to the presentations to be made by eminent personalities on emerging security challenges in our country. With the changing of time, the rich knowledge gained from years of public service will benefit us all. Thank you, all of you, once again.
Thank you, Mr. Shrestha. May I now request our first speaker of today, Lieutenant General Balanand Sharma, retired, Vice Chancellor of National Defense University of Nepal. General Sharma joined Nepal Army in 1969. He is a graduate of Royal Military Staff College of Camberley, United Kingdom, and the National Defense College of New Delhi, India. He holds a master's degree in history from Tribhuvan University. General Balanand Sharma has played a vital role in integrating the People's Liberation Army, owned by Maoists, into Nepal Army in his capacity as coordinator of Army Integration Coordination Committee. He has held various military appointments in Nepal in both operational and staff operations. General Balananda Sharma was also appointed as a force commander of United Nations Disengagement Observer Force in 2004. Currently, he is faculty member of Conflict, Peace and Development Studies Department of Tribhuvan University and Executive Director of Institute of Crisis Management Studies and Vice Chancellor of National Defense University, Nepal. General Sharma, you have around 15 to 20 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. May I start?
Sure, sir.
Right. Nepal Institute for International Cooperation and Engagement, the chair, the organizers, friend panelists. It's my honor and privilege to come and speak few words in front of you. I'll be sharing my personal observation as to how the security of nation state, particularly our own country, I'll be relating mostly on my own country. So I'll be speaking for about 20 minutes, initially a few minutes on external security, and mostly I'll be speaking on internal security as we are in a transition. Well, the external threat is basically for the survival of the nation for a small country like ours. I don't think this country has got any offensive strategy, but definitely would like to preserve our nation's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Now, what is really happening now is we have had series of governments in last 20, 30 years. And I have a chance to work under each one of them and also discuss issues related to national security strategy. I think it's a much debated and talked about topic. We have even produced a strategy, at least 2 of them has been produced as of today, but actually on the ground, much remains to be implemented. What I would like to say is we are underprepared. The force cannot be raised in one day. Therefore, we should be able to say how much a big force is required and how are we going to have it. Weapons neither can be procured or manufactured in one day again. Similarly, ammunition, clothing and equipments. Realistic training, if you have got your enemy defined, then is more realistic in terms of training. And then comes national morale, then whole of the country's approach to defend your nation. So all these things are enshrined in the constitution and also in the national security policy of Nepal. What remains to be seen is how it is going to be implemented, how the plans are going to be produced and implemented. so much to say on external security. Let me talk about the internal security. If there are any questions on external security, we can talk about it. On internal threat, this country has been changed from old system of autocratic rule to today's republicanism. Basically, the law and order and crime control, these two jobs belongs to police in terms of internal security. So since they are the primary responsible actor, the supporters are obviously Armed Police Force of Nepal and also Nepal Army, should there be a request. Now, these three institutions, we have got only three institutions to produce security, both externally and internally. And if we do not do it in a complementary manner, then we cannot really produce security in the nation. This is my personal observation. So therefore, instead of competing against each other, I think we should be complementing against each other, which is yet to be seen in our case. What is happening today is basically after the promulgation of the Constitution, what we have seen is we were waiting for the federal parliament to produce a police act. We had a centralized police. It has been now federalized. It has been divided into 7 different provinces, but we don't have promulgated the act. So minus the act, how are these police force going to act in the field? Also, because of this, the provincial governments have not been able to make their own acts. Police has been, centralized police has been divided into 7 forces, and none of them have made their laws. Now, police is governed, they have been still using the act that has been promulgated in 2012, that is 1955. With the promulgation of the constitutions, all these old laws are null and void. But if you say this, then police do not have any act. They have been working only under the regulations and instructions from the federal government. How long can you do this? Now, we have not given complete power to the provinces. The center has not been able to also exercise its control over the police now. As we have been saying it, police has been now gone into 7 federated units, which has been headed by the DIGs. And also we have a federal government under which is a Ministry of Home Affairs that takes the full control of the police force and the armed police force. And also we have the provincial governments who have their own minister responsible for the internal security. Also, on top of that, we have now the chief district officer who are posted in 77 districts, have a different role to play on internal security of the country in the respective district, which is within certain. Now, since we are in a state of transitions, we take some time, obviously, yes, but at the speed we are working, I think is too slow, and we may land into trouble anytime, anywhere. Now, what I would like to say here is, you may be in transition, you may be in different phase of transition, but security is most important issue, and we cannot say we cannot give you security because of this. So therefore, this has to be taken into account very, very seriously, and it should have been done long time ago, and yet we haven't done so. Now, other thing is, we have got chief district officers who are primarily responsible for the mobilization of the police force and the armed police force. We have a civil servant under the name of civilian control who are not trained on security matters, but they have been made in charge of mobilizing the security forces. Now, with less knowledge or no knowledge, if you take the responsibility of mobilizing the security forces, the police and the armed police force, without being accountability, I think this is a disaster for recipe. So therefore, this is one area we should look into very detailed and also find an answer to this. Second thing I would like to say here is, we have seen the CDOs mobilizing the armed police force and the police force simultaneously against any event. We do not have developed a methodology or a mechanism as to how first Nepal police is called upon and when is armed police force called upon. You never deploy two forces together on the same event, because that invites for a disaster. When two forces are deployed simultaneously in one event, then who is the overall in charge of it? How is the firearms controlled? A lot of questions come into the scene which cannot be answered immediately. We have seen few events in the past in the far west and also in the Tarai region because of these lapses. So therefore, when we are making a law, I think we should include these possible problems in our upcoming act and the regulations. Now we have today, from one government, we made more than 700 governments, in fact, 764 or 61, I don't know. 763 governments. Each government would act on its own with the given responsibility and accountability, and security forces will have to be deployed on all these units. How are you going to make a deployment and make them accountable vis-a-vis the local government, the provincial government, and the central government? So there is a need of a coordinating mechanism, cooperation mechanism between the federal police and the provincial police. Also between the armed police force and the Nepal police force. When is the Nepal police going to be deployed? When they cannot bring situation under control, when is the armed police force deployed? When armed police force deploys, what will happen to the Nepal police? Will they be withdrawn or they will be working together? Or if the event becomes uncontrollable, if army is required to move in, then what happens to their situation? Will the police stay there and the armed police force also stay there and the army moves in, or they will withdraw and the army moves in? When the situation is stabilized, how the army withdraws back and how they go and take their respective roles. And all that has to be very clearly defined in the Act, which has not been enacted so far. Now, with the new situation, political situation in the country, what we have not really envisaged is, one, there's no established mechanism as to how the two police force, the state police force will complement each other. Say, for example, number one province and number two provinces. Should there be a problem in the border area between 1 and 2, how are they going to react? And also, both these states border, southern border India, and they will be responsible for the international border also. We have got armed police force who are looking after the border, and also we have the Nepal police who are working in the border area. How are they going to complement each other, and how, which responsibility would be shouldered by whom? And how is this be coordinated vis-a-vis center, province, and the two security forces? All that has to be reflected in our Act, I think. Now, if you see the Constitution of today, it has given on its schedule the various responsibility to the provinces, and also there is a responsibility kept for the center. It's not very clearly defined in the Constitution, therefore we need an Act which is not in a place. Therefore, law and order situation is primarily a responsibility of the provinces, whereas crime investigation and crime control seems to be with the center. But everything happens in the provinces, where we cannot see now these two units, the law enforcement agencies and the crime control unit, working together between the various provinces. And that is what I see as a problem. And also it has been said that the highway would be managed by the center, national highway, and the provincial highways would be managed by the provinces. But the highways run through the provinces, both the national highways and the provincial highways. I think a clear-cut mechanism has to be also worked out as to who and how would be controlling the highways. Now we have got metropolitan police, big metropolitan area in certain provinces. How these metropolitan areas are to be governed in terms of law and order situation is also to be looked into the detail. Now, we have Nepal Police, which was recruited by the center, now has been divided into 7 provinces. Their integration into the provinces has been a problem for quite some time. I hope it has been resolved because some postings have been seen and people have been mobilized, but it will remain as a problem for quite some time in coming days. So if policemen are demoralized, if their welfare is not looked after well, then this force cannot deliver its good. So therefore, in terms of management,
we can't hear you.
To those also.
Okay, it's clear. We can hear you. Again, we can't hear you.
Enforcing agencies, there are others also. There is a justice system, there are private systems, there are unions.
So we can't hear you. There is some problem with the audio.
Act. So therefore, I simply hope that the wisdom dawns upon our politicians and an act is promulgated as soon as possible. Now, let me make few remarks before I make a conclusion. With the political change, our old values have changed. We made our population who go for freedom and liberty without any accountability. Now, how do we react to this situation has not been clearly answered. Our police force was originally been raised and led by military commanders. Therefore, the orientation of the police force in our country has been on the military line. Police has been trained like the weapons training, threat commanders training, community commanders training, which is more on the police line. Instead of more on the policing, community policing, public police relations, the latest development and the orientation has to be again looked into very well. Similar is the case with the armed police force. Armed police force also was raised with some percentage of the officers gone from the Nepalese Army, and also these officers became the commanders in that particular formation. Therefore, even in the armed police force, the orientation is more on the military side than on the police side. So that needs to be reoriented when we make an act and start training in coming days. Under the name of civil control, I think it's a very good phrase, nice to hear, but how do you implement on the ground? Unless the controller knows how the implementation process is devised in detail, the control becomes difficult. You cannot be wasteful by simply giving order. So therefore, how do we develop civilian authorities who control the security forces with arms, have a knowledge of security forces operating procedures? That also has to be seen into a detail. Now, complementarity of the work, when I said, I gave an example, if there are some events, some control has to be exercised, a police goes and it cannot control. Where does the reinforce come? Does it come from the center? Does it come from within? Does it come from the adjoining provinces? Or do you call for the armed police force? No, what are the mechanisms? How do you call? How do you make them work? How do you withdraw them? And do they train together? If they have not been trained together, you cannot expect them to operate well in the field. So therefore, training, conceptualization of this, converting it into act, and also training together is very, very important. Today, we have done away with our old constitution, drafted a new constitution. It's like, we have made a bridge and went across and dismantled the bridge. Now we have got only one way to go, that is implementing our constitution. If we look for a substitute for the constitutions, we'll be totally confused. Therefore, the clarity, precision, and accuracy is the demand of the security forces. When we're asking a force to fire a rifle, you are saying somebody is going to be killed and who is going to be accountable. A small mistake of somebody, a citizen loses his life. When you're talking with an institution who carries a firearm, you cannot be joking. Therefore, a clear-cut principles, ways, SOPs, acts, regulations, training, all have to be in place before you mobilize them. Now, I would like to bring one last point here. We have about 75 to 80,000 policemen in this country. Looking at the population size of the country, when I compared the number of policemen vis-a-vis the number of the security force, number of the citizens in this country, it seems to be a good number. But why aren't we been able to provide security then? Simply the management. So therefore, I think the management of the security forces. I think with this opening remarks, I should stop here. And I hope I have spoken enough to provoke questions. If there are any questions, I'll be able to answer those, should there be any. With this, I'd like to thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, General Sharma. May I now request Dr. Deepak Bhattacharya, Member of Parliament and Security Expert, to give his remarks. Dr. Deepak Bhattacharya, chairperson, is a former chairperson of Nepal Center for Security Governance. Dr. Bhatta is currently Member of Parliament of Nepal, and he holds PhD from School of International Studies, JNU. He served as a member of Technical Committee and Secretariat of the Special Committee for Supervision, Integration, and Rehabilitation of Maoist Army Combatants from March 2009 to December 2012. He is a faculty at the Masters in International Relations and Diplomacy, Department of Conflict, Peace and Development Studies, and Institute of Crisis Management Studies, Tribhuvan University. Visiting professor at Armed Police Force Command and Staff College, Kathmandu, Nepalese Army Higher Command and Management Course, Nagarkot, and Nepalese Army Command and Staff College, Shivpuri, Kathmandu. He has published several articles, books, journals, at different magazines and newspapers. Dr. Bhatta, you have 15 minutes. Please try to be on time so that we can have some time for deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pramod. Thank you, organizers, especially this NICE, the Nepal Institute for International Engagement, Cooperation and Engagement, and Center for Democracy and Development, CDD. Both, as I have seen that you have been organizing series of webinars and tapping on the very pertinent issues. So the way you are engaging people in this COVID situation, COVID-19 situation, as where most of the minds are under pressure, and we can see many negative consequences are there and possibilities are there. And at the moment, health crisis has extended our transitional mindset and transitional provisions. As we said, as country remains in a transition for 7 decades, for any nation that may be shorter time, but it's happening. Again, we have entered into the another transition, it seems like. General Sharma, he has covered a compact framework how the emerging security challenges in Nepal we are facing. 4 decades long career experience, plus at the moment as Vice Chancellor of the NDU, he's contributing to the nation and security institutions. So the trends and patterns we have seen and what required and what changes we need have been covered. But I think, yes, there are challenges. There are, the situation is not always that we have a, options or the solutions in hand. The situations in political sector is a little bit not always, silver lining is there, but positive things and positive energy is less. Either you talk about the ruling party or you talk about the opposition party, the major 2 parties, and the third one, the third largest party, all. And all these are also looking for stability or, the frictions or the smaller ideological, organizational, everything is there, issues are there. And that impacted our day-to-day politics and running government, positioning of the opposition and all these things. And, we can easily see that every day that is lacking what they should have performed. On the other hand, ad hoc policies kind of situation is always there. It's maybe because of the transitional situation. But as we said, this is the first phase where we have entered into the situation which can be described as a less transitional, or we can say that it is not always like the minority government or the alliance government or something like that, coalition government, something like that. So this particular situation, it has to have handled with the general framework of the human security, food, justice, housing, livelihood, all these, and especially the word picked up in the constitution is socialism. So broader sense of that linked with security is because of the human security. And the term human security, food sovereignty, and all these are described in constitution, means we have to look at a broader framework of a comprehensive approach to security. General Sharma described about the existing security institutions, how they have been trained, how they have been, handling with the situation, what they need, the reorientation of the new training manual or the trainings with new challenges or the new existing, new structures, especially the Nepal Police. And of course, at the same time, armed police force, which has been, given the new task of the border security force, border management, not the border security, broader, but it's there. So, and all these things, what we have been talking, each and every institution, or especially the dealing with the sensitive situation, is the security forces as always working in a different mindset and the different physical situation. So that's what my civilian mind look and talk about the security forces. And in that condition, in the past, we have seen that Nepal is a fertile ground for mushrooming of the political parties, and sometimes we talk about the mushrooming or a very conflicting situation or the organizations. But now that is not the situation, and that is good opportunity for government at the moment. So it must reorient its security institutions. As Nepali Army has been restructured in line with federal system. Nepal Police, yes, it's still the problem. Provincial governments are, or the assemblies have to discuss about the bills to erect new police structure, and when they will be, the federal police will be sent to the provinces, how it will work. So that is a big problem there, and so this gives a new challenge for internal management, for internally cope up with the situation. And by the time the situation in the society or government structure of the local government, rural municipality, sub and metro politicians, and the civilians or the population which is trapped in COVID situation, pandemic situation, and economic conditions will not remain or stay with their past conditions, because the flux of the society is, and the day-to-day problem and crisis for the common people, civilians is there. So for that reason, government have to act very organized and the rapid speed, but that is not happening. And the more threat to community is coming from several kind of the fake news or the media that or the some uncensored kind of media things, or the civil or we can say the these cyberspace. So that is also making problem. And for the law enforcement agencies and for the military or the Nepali Army, the nature they have seen the conflict in the past is slightly past, but now the newer challenges in each and every level is perceived. So how the major task of the border management, BOP, and movement of the people, not only the movement in crossing the border, what kind of people are coming and going, what kind of, Nepalese citizen will be, or the foreigners will be coming and going. We have to develop new border management system mechanism, institutionalizing that particular area. Similarly, day-to-day activities of the civilians and their relation and their confidence with the police, because it's working in the forefront, and security situation in this pandemic situation, consequences is another challenge, because the institutions we have in the health sector are ill-equipped, poorly managed, and that needs a cooperation from all sections of society, or especially the people, those who are working in the health sector. So this gives a very new challenge to the security personnel. And the new kind of threats, maybe the biological, cyber, or space, or data threats, these are also coming, where a section of police, armed police force, NID, and army all have to work in a very close and coordinated manner, as pointed out by General Sharma, that they should not be competing, and each and every issue should be dealt in a coordinated manner, which we have left behind. That we gave an example of the unified command era, but it was the armed conflict era. But after that, each organization, as they have been trained in a different position or different situation, reorientation and the new trainings are lacking. And for that reason, yes, of course, the intelligence system and the counterintelligence system for cooperating with the global security threats, the regional and the sub-regional security frameworks and the threats, they have to work on that also. So, and for that reason, the institutions like NICE or CDD or other think tanks, especially the government think tanks like Dr. Upreti is here, so he might be we'll be focusing on how the research which can help border management overall process or overall mandate to the APF, and similarly to the Army, how civilians are perceiving the issues related to the Army, similarly to the police. So we need civil society or the researchers engaged in these kind of institutions, academia, and then something that, like focused on the event or the, like the evidence-based feedbacks to the institutions from that. And similarly, in the political front, politicians or the responsible person in the political front must, get some these kind of feedbacks which can help them to address the legal framework where the fulfilling the gaps in addressing these kind of problems as raised before. And of course, we can see that, like in a newer framework, we have not seen the bigger internal security conflicts on rise. For the last 6 months or so, we are under a new pressure, which is like completely unknown area for each and everyone. Each and every individual is under pressure and psychological pressure, and that is where we need a more, respect for each and each other's profession. And so Nepal Police, of course, like that we have seen that when government started talking procurement and all these issues, they also came into the surface that again the problem is there about the kickbacks, governance, like the commission and all these things. So these are another, another area where if we talk about the economic security, then the issue comes about the security sector governance or the security sector, the development. So in nature, sometimes we can see that this is completely a political issue or the social issue, but it has a very core link with the security area. So I think it's a very comprehensive issue, comprehensive challenge. So we must work in a very coordinated manner. So as I mentioned, the researchers, academia, and politicians, and responsible media. So they should work and act together. So I will stop here, Pramod.
Thank you, Dr. Bhatt. May I now request Dr. Vishnu Raju Preti for his remarks. Dr. Vishnu Raju Preti is Executive Chairman of Policy Research Institute. He holds PhD in Conflict Management and MSc on Knowledge System Management from Wageningen University of Netherlands and Master in Sociology from Tribhuvan University. Dr. Upreti worked as a research fellow at the King's College, University of London, and Center for Environment Strategies, University of Surrey, UK. In the last 40 years of experience in the field of development from 1980 to 1996 in the research, he served as South Asia Coordinator for Global Research Program called NCCR. And he has been working on North-South issues. He is a senior researcher focusing on state building, peace, and unconventional security, such as water, food, health, environment security, governments, and North-South research partnership. Dr. Upreti was a regular visiting scholar in different US and European universities and research centers. His teaching and research are mainly focused on social and political policy, conflict management, and state building related issues. He has written and co-edited several books. He publishes frequently on international peer-reviewed journals and extensively contributed chapters in different volumes. He is widely quoted in national and international media. Dr. Upreti, you have around 15 minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Shah. Good evening to all. First of all, I would like to express my sincere thanks to Mohan sir and Pramod ji for giving me this opportunity to share my experiences, my perspective. I am not the security expert. As Pramod ji rightly said, I am a conflict researcher and mainly I am looking from the human security perspective. I am a human security researcher, so I will shed some light from that angle as well. The security is a very complex. It's a perceptual and psychological as well. It's quite a dynamic concept. And it is also contextually defined. The context very much determines the security. So what I will be explaining today may not be right for tomorrow, and what tomorrow someone will explain may not be right for next time. So it's a quite dynamic concept, and it's a comprehensive concept. It may not be feasible for me to completely give the comprehensive overview, but what I will try to do is to share my perspective on the different facet, international theoretical sources of insecurity and their effect in Nepal, possible effect in Nepal. And I will dedicate some time to share my perspective on the human security challenges within the country arising from different factors. So first of all, as I shared, security is a very much interconnected, and if something happens in one part of the globe, it has the effect in another part because of the changing technological advancement and other related issues. So what I see currently globally, there are several, at least 13, 12, 13 very strong interconnected sources of insecurity around the world, and they will have a very direct effect or impact to Nepal and other countries as well. First of all, the territorial source of the conflict, because in so many countries, there is always the boundary dispute, territorial dispute, and even we are facing the territorial dispute in our neighbors. Two giant neighbors have almost the fight. So in that situation, it will have the direct effect. This type of the territorial tension are within the India and Pakistan, China and India and so forth and so on. So I couldn't think that it will not have the effect. It will have a very direct effect. There is another quite important source of insecurity is the religious intolerance coming across the extremism, radicalization. They are very fastly propagating to everywhere, and it will have the very direct effect to any country, and Nepal will not be exception from such type of the possible effect of this type of the religious extremism or the ethnic dimension, because globally, if we will see the trend, there is also increasing insecurity caused by the ethnicization of the politicization of ethnicity. So these factors are actors. If you look to the former Soviet Union countries, if we look to the African countries, always there is a dimension of ethnicization of the politics and politicization of the ethnicity, which will have the direct effect, and many other countries will learn from this type of the extremism. So that is another source for me. And the structural sources of the conflict, structural source of the insecurity always remain in developing countries and even in developed countries. For example, inequality, gender-based inequality, geographical inequality, or any form of the inequality, discrimination and injustice is a very strong psychological factor contributing to the insecurity, and that will have the direct effect to each and every individual in the country. And there is a fair chance of manipulating this type of the issue by some sort of the extremists. So it will also cause the insecurity in the country. And similarly, the strategic interest of the powerful countries, irrespective of to what extent they will be supportive, it is always the national interest. If they have some vital national interest, they feel it is threatened at that time, it remains always the source of the insecurity for small countries, and therefore we can't overrule that possibility, and that can also be a part of the insecurity sources. Likewise, the environmental and natural resources, over-exploitation of the natural resources, vested interest of the powerful company or the powerful country to extract the particular resources. In our case, particularly the water resources is a major source of the insecurity in Nepal in coming years, if we are not able to handle it properly. Further, the democratic dynamics, if we look the global demographic dynamics, it is a very unique. In many of the Muslim countries, the population growth is so fast, and in other countries, there is a negative population growth rate. What does this mean? It will really imbalance the workforce relation, it will imbalance the other type of the relation, and at the end will affect. But just I will cite one example in that dynamics. Many countries, many countries, particularly the Islamic countries, where the demographic changes are very fast. For example, Pakistan or Iran or Nigeria, any country will look the population growth rate is high. So that will have also the effect. Similarly, there is also the resource scarcity, land grabbing by the powerful companies, powerful nations, water grabbing, monopolization of the genetic resources, monopolization of the environmental resources by the particular company. They will also create the frustration to the people, and it will cause the insecurity at the end. And likewise, this epidemic, for example, we are currently facing this COVID crisis. This pandemic is creating the insecurity all over the world, and we particularly in Nepal also facing the same. In the past, we faced the Zika virus, SARS, and so many, Ebola, and so many others. That also create the insecurity. In that sense, Nepal is also vulnerable from that. And the technological facet, Dr. Bhatta was also earlier indicating about the biological, the chemical weapons, about the cyber crime and the cyber threat, cyber insecurity. So these are the new technological innovation also causing insecurity to the people and across the world, not only in Nepal, but we are also those countries who are not able or capable to deal with, they are more vulnerable. In that sense, still we have to develop counter strategy. General Sharma was very nicely giving the overview of the situation. In that circumstances, we are still under threat. So these are also quite important. And also the organizational dimension, you see, the UN is becoming somehow the weak. The role of UN is also somehow ineffective, and there are no other global governing type of the organization remaining, and the role they were performing is also creating a vacuum, and this will also create the insecurity, and the global power dynamism is changing from unipolar world to multipolar world. The hegemonic type of the US influence all over the world is gradually weakening, and the new emerging forces are coming. For example, Russia, China, Brazil, South Africa, and many others. So in that sense, it is also has the direct effect to the country. So these are some of the external sources of the insecurity in Nepal. And I will particularly focus to the human insecurity, which is the real concern of all of us. There I will bring few of the points about the food security. Nepal is not a food insecure country as such, if we will see to the total production and total distribution. But the issue is that to what extent that the total available food is distributed to the needy people. So this issue is always a concern for the, all of us, and there we need to look from that angle, how we can make sure that everyone will get the food as they require. Similarly, the water insecurity, you see, we are such a rich people in water, but in many part of the country, we are still lacking good quality drinking water. Irrigation water is lacking in one side. The other side, water is creating such a huge disaster. For example, flood, landslide, and mudslides, all they are causing by the water. So this water insecurity is another perennial challenge. Often political decision maker and the analyst very quickly see if there is happening something because of this high profile type of the attack, and some number of people are died. But from this low type of the killer, like the food insecurity, water insecurity, health insecurity, thousands of people are dying, and we need to look from there. That is another major source of the insecurity. Similarly, there is also the climate related risk increasingly coming all over the world, and we as a developing country, we have still weak capacity to cope with different adverse effects, and because of that, people are facing the insecurity. So by and large, what I say, Nepal has not a real threat from the external part like this military aggression or anything, that at least I didn't see that. But what I see is that we will have the multiple effect of the different insecurity dimension going across the world and their effect in Nepal, and particularly this COVID crisis. I see this as the real crisis looming to us, because there are so many people unemployed and there are so many industries are closed. The tourism sector is almost gone. The migration, which was a major source of economy, is damaged, totally damaged. And now we are just entering to the effect. We are not seeing the holistic effect of this COVID crisis, and we will gradually see it, and it will be a real disaster if we are not able to devise the appropriate strategy and response mechanism to promote the local level economy, to sustain the local level economy. So these are some of the points I would like to share as a point for discussion in this August gathering. And last, Dr. Deepak Bhatta, he was indicating me as I have the role to do something on that, as the Policy Research Institute is a government think tank, and we have just started it. But Dr. Saab, I can assure you that we have the quite one big cluster of the focus on the geostrategy, foreign relation, and the security dimension, where we will be analyzing the different dimension, how it will affect to Nepal and what should be our strategy to deal with. So we will be working, and we need the help of you, Dr. Saab, Jar Saab, and all presented in this forum. I invite all of you to be part of the PRI and work together for the nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Priti, for your remarks. May I now invite Professor Sangeeta Thaplyal, my professor and MPhil supervisor at Jawaharlal Nehru University. Professor Thaplyal is teaching at JNU since 2008. She works on strategic issues concerning South Asia with a special reference to Nepal. Her previous work experience include Director, Department of Strategic and Regional Studies, University of Jammu, Observer Research Foundation, Delhi Policy Group, and Institute of Defense Studies and Analysis. She has completed her PhD in South Asian Studies from JNU. Her area of interest include India's strategic interest in the Himalayan and Trans-Himalayan areas, India's relation with Nepal, Bhutan, Tibet, South Asian security, water security in South Asia. She has written several journals and books. Some of her recent journals include India and Nepal Treaty of 1950, the Continuing Discourse, India Quarterly, the Discourse on Feudalism in Nepal, which was published by Chaitanya Mishra and Om Gurung, edited book, Ethnicity and Feudalism in Nepal, Department of Sociology and Anthropology, Tribhuvan University, Kathmandu. Madam, the floor is yours. I think I can't see.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes,
No, it is muted.
Thank you. Thanks, Ambassador Mohan Krishna Shrestha, Dr. Jaiswal, and fellow panelists. My pleasure to be here to share my views with you all. Narratives on identification of security challenges has been changing in Nepal over the years. And it's nice to see varied responses and reaction of different speakers covering military security to human security issues. I will be flagging a few pointers for the discussion. Let me begin with geostrategic concerns, which were paramount for Nepal in 1950. Landlocked between India and China, the geostrategic concerns emanating from Nepal's geographical location was the prime concern, as someone mentioned earlier about the yam between two boulders. Now, both Nepal and India considered the Chinese forces in Tibet too close for comfort. The concept of buffer was vitiated, and the Chinese forces were much closer to their borders. Thus, through treaties on Gurkha recruitment in the Indian Army in 1949, peace and friendship of 1950, arms assistance agreement. In Nepal and India consolidated their security relations. India had also sent military missions to reorient and reorganize the Nepalese army. I mean, some time back, I was reading former Prime Minister MP Koirala's autobiography, and in his letters that he has sent to Prime Minister Nehru, there was one particular, reference that I really liked, and I would like to read it for you. This was written in April 1954. He says that our relations with Tibet remained the same in spite of the presence of the Chinese there. And we are still dealing directly with the Dalai Lama and not with the Chinese, and to our belief, Tibet was still autonomatic. It was Nehru who responded on 8th May 1954 that, within quote, there can be no doubt at all that Tibet is under Chinese sovereignty and it has ceased to be autonomous. Well, by this time, India and China had already signed agreement on Panchsheel principles. This quotation I give just to highlight that Nepal and India had concerns from Chinese forces in Tibet. Secondly, the leaders of the two countries discussed their concerns and had coordinated their foreign policy interests and strategic concerns. Now, of course, with changing times, there were changes in Nepal's priorities and foreign policy. From special relationship that we had in 1950 to 1955 or so, it moved towards the policy of equidistance, and that remained throughout the Panchayat era and later on also. And in the last few years, there is a shifting emphasis from landlocked to land-linked. There have been statements from Nepalese leaders that Nepal could act as a transit between India and China, or Nepal could benefit from the developing economies of both its neighbors. Now, Nepal's concerns from China are not the same. Nepal follows one China policy and Tibet as inseparable part of China. In fact, China is the second largest trading partner of Nepal. I will not go into the details of Nepal-China relation here right now. Nonetheless, changes in political dynamics do not change geostrategic concerns. India was uncomfortable with the option of equal relationship in Nepal's foreign policy. It has its own concerns. Equal relationship suggested that Nepal ignored the open border and free movement of population between the two countries. Well, this does not exist between Nepal and China. Secondly, India has given concessions to Nepal in trade and transit, free movement of population, national treatment to its citizens. These are just a few examples that suggest a relationship with Nepal, which took into consideration its small size, landlocked status, and vulnerability. However, without emphasizing on reciprocity, there is an expectation from Nepal to be sensitive to India's security concerns. Nepal has friendly relations with both its neighbors. It has to balance its relations with both its neighbors and take into consideration their core interests and sensitivities as well. Gone are the days when the political game of balancing one against another was successful. In fact, Prime Minister Oli has said time and again that Nepal does not believe in playing one country against another, or Nepal does not believe in this card or that card. So that is a challenge to Nepal. How to implement it? This is not to say that Nepal should not be developing relations with ABC country. As I said earlier, Nepal has friendly relations with both India and China. It has to take into consideration the sensibilities of both its neighbors, and that itself is a challenge to Nepal. How does it implement it? Now, from here, I move on to the second issue of open border. 1,751 kilometers of open border between India and Nepal. And I think 1950 treaty was signed, and the open border was considered as a continuation of the historical reality between the two countries. The open border has served the interests of both the countries, that you and I know that. People from both the countries are given, especially from Nepal to India, not India, treatment of national citizenship. So Nepalese and India are given similar kind of treatment that is extended to an Indian citizen. Nepalese can enter India unhindered in search of better employment opportunities, except of course in Indian Administrative Service, Indian Foreign Service, and I think Indian Police Service as well. Same is the case with India. Indians can go to Nepal without any visa, passport, etc. And many of them are actually working there and employed in, especially in, for businesses, etc. However, so, with the changing times, the open border became a security concern for both. The provision of the free movement of people between the two countries has been misused by the people of other countries. The racial affinity between the people of South Asia makes it difficult to distinguish and identify the people as belonging to India or Nepal. Miscreants, subversive elements also take advantage of the racial, linguistic overlapping in the region and use Nepal as a transit point. The open border has been misused by the smugglers, militants, terrorists, and criminals. The two countries are also affected by the trafficking of women and children from Nepal to India. I'm told that nearly 2 lakh girls are trafficked from Nepal to India, which acts as a receiving country and as a transit to Gulf countries, Europe, and nearly 5,000 to 7,000 Nepali girls are sold in India itself. I believe China has also emerged as a new market for trafficking of women. So nearly 1.5 million Nepalese are at risk of various forms of human trafficking. And this I'm picking up from Nepal's Human Rights Commission. And it is said that nearly 3,500 Nepali citizens were trafficked in 2018 itself. Foreign employment and child labor made up nearly 70% of total trafficked population, followed by those from the entertainment sector and those reported missing. After COVID pandemic, I believe that, and this is a UN report which says that the trafficked people are at risk of exploitation. Countries are diverting funds meant for victims or for social security to other areas. Both the countries, of course, are, so it is a concern for both the countries. It is a concern for Nepal. It is a concern for India as well. So I think there has to be concerted efforts, coordinated efforts by both the countries to look into this matter, to resolve this issue. In fact, both the countries are committed not to allow their territory to be used against each other or permit unscrupulous elements to pose security threats. Nepal government, of course, has been taking action against the criminals. Just 2 days back or 3 days back, there was a report that Nepal police had arrested Altab Hussain Ansari in fake gold case. And he has been arrested earlier also in smuggling fake Indian currency to India via Pakistan. So we see that police is also taking action. There is armed police force and SSB also deployed in the borders. So this is a security concern, but it affects both the countries, which has to be taken care of by a coordinated effort. Coming to this Nepal's economic security, especially in recent times, I personally feel that, it was said that about 500,000 young people are entering Nepal's labor market every year, but the economy has been unable to create jobs for just 10% of them. The rest are then forced to pursue either self-employment or they migrate abroad in search of work, etc. In fact, it was said that by 2019, the annual total of remittances had doubled to more than $8 billion US, compared to just over $4 billion in 2011. So there is, people have been, apart from India, people have been going to Gulf countries, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait. These are the most sought after destinations. And along with people or these migration of people, there is also thriving industry revolving around it. For example, there are recruiting agencies and there are remittance service provided, etc. After the pandemic, what we see that this is a global phenomenon. It is not only for Nepal, but I am mentioning Nepal because if remittances is such an important part of Nepal's economy, then it gets badly affected. So, people, this migrant workers, especially after the pandemic, they are coming back to Nepal. Nepal's foreign minister told the parliamentary committee that a staggering 211,000 Nepalese needed to be rescued and repatriated immediately, and that many thousand more would need to be brought back home to Nepal at the next opportunity. So this is one area that, where Nepal would be affected, not only in terms of money coming through remittances, but also, you see, many Nepali migrant workers, they had sold, for example, land, ancestral land, or they had borrowed money through informal networks, or they had taken loan by bank for their ticketing, etc., for going to another country. Now, after losing their job, many of them would find it difficult to repay back that loan. And so this is, once they come back, I really hope that borders open again and situation normalizes soon. But there is a big but if it doesn't happen like that, government of Nepal has to take care of employment opportunities of a large number of population that would be coming back. And if it is not able to do so, which it would find it difficult, what happens then? There will be a lot of social unrest, social discontent. So this is, there would be socio-economic insecurity in the society. This is a challenge for Nepal government. I also feel that many of them, there are a lot of Nepali people working in India. We do not know how many of them are working. Some people say 2.3 million. We do not know the exact number. But there were a lot of discontent amongst the Nepali people in the workers in India also. They've said that while Nepal government was sending flights to bring migrants from other countries, they were not opening their borders for people from India to enter Nepal. So there was a kind of discontentment. Secondly, I thought that Supreme Court of Nepal had also give a kind of notice to the government, asking for why, this kind of situation, and why there was a difference policy for people who were coming to India and those who had gone for work to different countries. So this is one particular challenge that I see Nepal government would be facing. Second, as Professor Upreti mentioned about tourism sector, I believe around 8% of Nepal's economy is taken care of by the tourism sector. In fact, this year was Visit Nepal year 2020-21. And with no tourists since the lockdown has been imposed, flights have been suspended. The service sector, including restaurant, hotels, and tourism, so they have taken a massive beating. Hotel Association of Nepal says that the hotel sector is losing nearly 1.80 billion monthly after the coronavirus crisis, and the business has come to a halt right now. So same is the case with trekking. Government of Nepal had some time back actually thought of reopening or restarting trekking, but again, because of increasing corona cases or COVID cases, this decision has been withheld for some time. So there is an economy. Even if I believe 100 people go, 100 trekkers go to a mountain, there are 1,000 who get benefit out of it. There are, mountaineering expeditions are there. So the entire economy which revolves around trekking, that has also taken a backseat. Finance Minister Khatibada had some time back said that, that the government of Nepal would be taking some emergency measures soon. So the very fact that he is calling it as emergency measures, they do understand that this is a pressing problem and a challenge for government of Nepal. One suggestion I would say that maximum tourists go from India to Nepal, and followed by China, US, and other countries. Okay, of all the tourist population that goes, we have number of of those who go by air travel. We do not know, we do not have account and numbers of those people who travel by road, and in that, religious tourism from India is a major stakeholder, in terms of contributing to the tourist sector in Nepal. So if when the economy opens, I think this is one area where Nepal can actually look at the possibility of religious tourism. One more issue I would like to pinpoint here is about environmental security. That itself is a challenge to Nepal, because recently the floods in Nepal, you see floods in India also, landslide incidences are occurring more in Nepal. It's not only in Nepal, but the entire Himalayan region that we see. I mean, look at Uttarakhand also. So, and government of Nepal has actually identified climate change as one of the problem areas which affects Nepal's security. This is a government of Nepal's report, which says that it is ranked 4th in terms of vulnerability to climate change impacts and 11th for earthquake. According to the report, more than 80% of the country's total population is at risk of some kind of natural disaster, putting Nepal among the top 20 most disaster-prone countries in the world. Country is susceptible to all sorts of disasters, floods, landslides, cloudbursts, etc. And I think too, the government of Nepal has identified this. In 2009, I'm just taking you back, when Mr. Madhav Nepal had become Prime Minister, he held his cabinet meeting at Mount Everest Base Camp, I think Kala Pathar was its name, in an attempt to attract worldwide attention on the threat posed to Himalayan glaciers by global warming ahead of, and this was ahead of Copenhagen meeting on climate change. And according to it, and I'm quoting what Mr. Prime Minister of Nepal said at that time, it's not a Nepali issue or the concern of countries in the Himalayan region alone. Impact of global change on Himalayas would impact 1.3 billion people living in South Asia. Hence, it should concern everyone. And I highlight, it should concern everyone. And in fact, at that point of time, Nepal had come up with a 10-point Everest declaration as well. This year, April 2 to 4, Nepal was also planning to organize Sagar Mat Samvad, where they had invited people from other countries, including Prime Minister of India, to discuss issues related to Everest. And I believe of course, the meeting was deferred. So they're planning to have such kind of meeting every 2 years to address global issues and that are affecting Nepal as well. But so you need, it's not only a problem of Nepal. It is a challenge to Nepal, but it is a problem of, as he says, of South Asia, especially those downstream countries. Here also, I think a coordinated, concerted effort is required where India, Bangladesh, could also pitch in to discuss these issues. I personally, so here I would say that these are certain non-military threats and challenges to government of Nepal, which government of Nepal has actually identified. But I also believe that it will not be possible for Nepal to address these challenges alone. It would be requiring, help from other countries. I stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we'll open the floor for discussion. We have got lots of questions, so without spending time, wasting time, let me move to the questions. The first question is from retired diplomat P.B. Shah to General Sharma. With the emergence of Asia pivot global security strategy of world powers, Nepal having strategically located between two Asian emerging powers, its importance has not only raised unprecedented but also added crucial security challenges. Amidst volatile security challenge in the region with potential vulnerability of internal strife, and together with obscure economic reshaping effect of COVID-19, how do you suggest the government of Nepal to cope with these external and internal security challenges compounded by the threat posed by the devastating pandemic? This is from P.B. Shah to General Sharma. There's another question from Kirtan Adhikari to General Sharma. Why doesn't Nepal have foreign intelligence agency like RAW, Mossad, ISI? Isn't it necessary to have foreign intelligence agency for Nepalese sovereignty as it is between two giants in Asia? The third question is for Dr. Bhatt. It's by Sajin Bikram Kuwar. Dr. Bhatt, so many events in the present days in Nepal is identical to the notion of failed state. Being a scholar and MP, are you ready to accept this fact? For example, inhuman killing, corruption, rape, abduction, loss of control of territory, etc. Third question is from Major General Binod Basnet to any of the speakers. So maybe I would request Vishnu sir or any other to respond. With the geopolitical environmental shifting, trends of external power, vigorous engagement, and Nepal realizing that the foreign policy needs to be either amended or marginalized. What are the challenges from within and external? Do you think the operating procedures and the structures at the strategic, operational, or tactical level is adequate to meet the challenges? There's another question by Sandhya to all the panelists. Do you think that the recent geographical claims by Nepal, probably she comes from India, so she's talking about Kalapani Lipule. Do you think that the recent geographical claims by Nepal will destabilize the societies in the claimed territories, which can emerge as a security question in future for both the countries? Secondly, do you think that exclusionary practices of the state, or be it political marginalization and caste discrimination grievances, create a historical divide between communities and hence causing internal security issues of Nepal? Let me take one more question and then we'll open the floor. Food, this question is from former diplomat P.B. Shah to Professor Sangeeta Thapliyal. Food, water, and energy security have become most potent security threat and sources of conflict within, between, and among many countries at present day world. Definitely water will be a very crucial source of conflict between India and Nepal. How do you foresee to address this issue as Nepal feels judicially disfranchised with India if you look at the Koshi, Gandak, Mahakali treaties concluded between the two countries? So maybe we'll follow the same order. First, General Sharma. Sir, please unmute yourself. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. You want me first to react?
Yes, sir.
Right. Thank you. Well, I think there are a number of questions asked. First, let me take one from someone, a foreign intelligence agency. Requirement of this. I think there is no denial that we need such an agency, because that is the only way as to how we find out how our external threat is coming from outside the country. So like many other countries practice, so we should also do it. We haven't done so. I think there is a requirement. I'm sure it will be done in future. I think we are slowly going in that direction. Now, let me respond to these geostrategical questions raised. I think the second national security policy, which was drafted and which has not seen the daylight as yet, I think much has been discussed about geostrategy there. Once it comes out in public, a lot of things would be clearer. There, I think national security policy has been written after evaluating the geopolitical situation of the country, particularly the impact of two neighbors, and also the interest of global power. Obviously, Nepal cannot survive on its own, and also it has to take note of the power politics that is played here in the country. And also the national security policy, since it is written, it has included in it that the military should write its military strategy. The internal security strategy also should be produced by the Ministry of Home Affairs, and also every department that is related to human security aspect. Say, for example, health security, Ministry of Health, the environmental security, Ministry of Environment, etc. At least 7 areas have been identified in line with the UN policy. Therefore, those will be answered by them. Now, what will be our foreign policy is our structure good enough to deal with our foreign policy? I think it's an open question to everybody. To me, I think we have to have a foreign policy if you have got your national policy strong. You know, it is an extension of a national policy to foreign soil. So therefore, your national policy has to come out first. Then foreign policy is selling our idea, our domestic policy in other countries. So that is taking shape. Now, is the structure enough? I think what we want to achieve, through which country, in what way, will be giving us the answer. I'm sure this has been realized by the in the government, and also since the policy is out, foreign ministry was part of it. So therefore, they are working on it. I feel that this particular issue of our foreign policy structures would be answered in due course of time. Transition will take some days, but I think it will see. Now, let me say a few words about the claim made by Nepal and its impact on our bilateral relation. I don't think it is our claim. It is our right. We have said what it belongs to us. So we have only said that is ours and it belongs to us. So it's not any additional claim we have made. We have made it a realization to others that this belongs to us. Can't we say that, that much also? Now, do we have a policy on this thing? I think, I have a chance to work under various prime ministers, various regimes in the last 30, 40 years. This issue was raised by the security forces many a times, but it was in the political domain that it reached and it remained there dormant. So therefore, now it has come in a big way. I sincerely hope that the truth will prevail. The diplomacy will get its due course in near future, and we will resolve our issue not only there, but remaining others also. So therefore, it was overdue. It has come today. I'm sure it will be resolved amicably by our diplomats. I think this is what I have to say as a response to the questions. Let me say one more word on disaster management, because this was raised in discussion. I think in this country, we have left everything to the security forces. Yes, security forces are the first responder, but then I feel that we must have a separate institution to deal with the natural disasters. See, if you take a mind back, we have a Ministry of Peace and Reconstruction to resolve the issue, the temporary issue of integration of Maoist army combatants. But this national disaster is a recurrent issue, is a permanent issue. We are in a seismic zone, we are in a monsoon zone, a landslide are inevitable, floods are inevitable, it will happen every year, and we have seen pandemic. If you have a dedicated institution which works 24/7 for the disaster management, I think it will be managed pretty well, and also we can make them accountable. So I think it's too late. We should now have one institution raised in the country which is accountable for all these issues, of course, supported by the security forces and existing agencies. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Bhatt, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Pramod, and thanks to all those who have raised queries and questions. In fact, it's a wide the range of ideas as shared by panelists. So the questions are, and while talking about the rampant, as mentioned in the question, is about the abduction, corruption, or the loss of control in the territory and all these kind of things, and is country heading towards the failed state? in that scenario, I don't see this is happening, or the country is tending towards, or somewhere moving towards the failing or the failed state. It is coming out from a big armed conflict and transition, as I mentioned. So in that sense, what I feel is like what I sense, the patterns of changes are very unprecedented. If you look at the terms, nobody was aware about this kind of pandemic and the whole living generation. And when pandemic is in our door, what we found, all are talking about quarantine, all are talking about lockdown, though nobody knows what is this. And while responding with the given legal framework and the institutions, existing security forces, existing health institutions, including the health post and the individuals engaged in that area or whole health sector, are very closely related to the security challenges, but nobody knows how to respond because all these are the unknowns. So the challenges were new, and if you look at the thousands workers or the migrants returning and were stopped at the border, and similar on the, that phenomena happened on the both sides. Nepalese coming to their own land, and Indians going back to India. So this is the new thing. So everything in society is coming in a new way. So the human security, as I was slightly touching upon that, different situation in terms of moving towards the broader unconventional security is the question there. Otherwise, existing security institutions have to deal with each and every new situation. Either we talk about the Nepali Army or talk about the APF, NID or Nepal Police. All they have to work in a coordinated manner. But for that reason, we have made some mistakes. As the Ministry of Home Affairs, which is core and the main responsible ministry, which have the main responsibility to handle with the disaster or any pandemic, was sidelined, and the created a structure was established under the leadership of the MOD. So that is somewhere the pitfall is. So in a given time, we have learned from that. So as transforming state and the making state stronger and abiding with the laws and following the rules is something problematic with our first generation of leadership. So I see that there are problems, but they are not very new and the raw people. They have a long history of struggle and understanding state, but all that has been learned in a rampant manner, where most of the negativity of the politics has a very pure reflection in our politics also. So that is one problem. Otherwise, it's always the politicians are there to be blamed, or it is not only because that they are doing good job. So how the politicians' qualification or all these things will be measured is the only way that people are participating in the elections at the different levels. So that is one part. And while focusing on the traditional security or the newer challenges of the security, I'm sure that the challenges are coming in a newer form day by day. So for that reason, parliamentary supervision, parliamentary committee, as we are not in the condition to discuss in the parliamentary committee even, but supervision or oversight role regarding the security sector. And we must not forget mentioning about the private security sector or the institutions, those who are providing security is the large or the big one. We must have a very good coordination, first the legal framework and then coordinated work, because they are already there in a good size, good number. So including all, we need a very coordinated framework with the new and new challenges. So I will stop here.
Thank you, Dr. Preti. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Dr. Jaiswal. When reading to all these questions and concerns raised by the participant here, I come to few of the general points which I want to re-emphasize. One common understanding I draw from this comment and concern is that the Indo-Nepal relationship, what I see, because this is a crucial issue, as Professor Thapalia said, in a geostrategic positioning of Nepal itself always demands some sort of complication, because we can't avoid that. These two giant countries are there. But what we are seeing is that there is always possibility of resolving problem through the negotiated dialogue, discussion, talks in a diplomatic way. So many of the issues and concern raised here, I am not that worried that we will have such a big tension which we will not able to move ahead. I am sure there will be ways to handle it, and we will be able to be settled that in a win-win situation. That is always possible, and it will be possible through the dialogue, discussion, and mutual understanding. That is what I see. Regarding some of the observation Professor Thapalia made on the security challenges in front of geostrategic, economic, tourism, religion, and migration, all that, what I see, there are so many issues which are very closely interlinked with India. The equal number, even more number of the Indian are coming to work in Nepal as a migrant worker and taking far more money than what Nepali migrant worker getting from India. So there is also mutual type of the issue I observed, and also the tourism similar situation. So that gives the very clear interdependence with these two countries. That doesn't mean that we as an independent country have the right to develop the relation with the other country. So good relation with one country should not be mutually exclusive to the other country. So we always be having the good relation with all our neighbors. We don't have any of our enemies, and all our friends and well-wishers. That is how our source of our foreign relation is developing. We as a small country cannot be aligned to this and that. We will always be focused on our national interest, and will deal with respect and with mutuality with all. So in that way, in our international relation, as Jarsha or someone was raising that, do we need to rethink? I don't think we need to rethink, but what I think important is that we have to refine, we have to engage more, we have to expand our access, we have to establish more multi-track diplomacy with in different level, with the academics, with the journalists, with the retired professional, all that, and we have to develop the confidence and trust with all our mutually partner countries all over the world. We have some relation with so many countries, but we have the special relation with our neighbors because of their interdependence with us. So regarding the international relation part, what I see, I'm not the international relation expert, and Mohan sir will highlight later, but what I see is that we have to engage more. We have to reach the concern of Nepali people to our friendly countries and engage more. It will help. So I don't think there is a separate international policy is needed. Perhaps Bala Nanda Sharma has already addressed about the Binod Sharma issue about the tactics, strategy, all that. I am not the competent to talk on that issue, though Dr. Jaiswal indicated me to share. But later it may come again, and Jarsab will even further explain. That is where I stop now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Professor Sangeeta Thapliyal.
Yes. There's a question by Ms. Sandhya on recent geographical claims. Would it be a security challenge for both the countries? I don't think so. I do not like to generalize relationship or foreign policy, of any country or relations between two countries. It can definitely be a pinprick. It can be a concern where both the countries need to resolve it or negotiate or whatever they decide. But that doesn't mean that it will have an impact on various other areas where our relationship is already going on. I mean, while there is a this geographical claim or the border issue at one point, simultaneously economic relations are going on, cultural relations are going on. So I would not like to generalize the entire gamut of relationship between the two countries. This is one. Secondly, my response to General Saab when he said that it is Nepal's right. Yes, it is Nepal's right, but sir, there are claims and counterclaims, as the person who had raised this question. Okay, there are claims and counterclaims, and that as something which has led to this kind of issue. Okay, if you say that it is your right, Indians would say that since centuries, various parts of Nepal were part of India. So what does one do? Secondly, 1954 treaty with Nepal, with China, India-China agreement was in 1954, 1991, 2015. Nepal raised the issue only when Mahakali agreement was signed in 1997. And later on the second time they raised, and that time only Mahakali, so about Kalapani was linked to it. Only now in 2019, Nepal has brought Limpiadhura to it. When they bring Limpiadhura, that means they're bringing Lipulek Pass, they're bringing Limpiadhura Pass, and they're also bringing in between, there is Mansyadhura Pass, along with Gunji, Nabi, and Kuti villages. So Nepal's claim is no more what it was earlier, it has expanded. So, let us not get into what is right and what is wrong at this juncture. I'll stop here because this itself can be a separate session. Someone has asked me a question on water issues and water conflict. Like various other issues related to India and Nepal, you need a cooperative endeavor to resolve an issue, Nepal has water, and India would like to get into. I think what someone meant was energy security and hydropower. So there have been, Koshi was there, Gandak was there, Mahakali. I mean, these are the three names that have been mentioned. Let us not get into the prisoner of the past. Koshi and Gandak also, but amended, and they are working. Mahakali, of course, and Pancheshwar and Prime Minister Modi had gone there. It is moving ahead with that. So for me, important thing is that water issue, or by water I mean hydropower issue, it should not be brought within the domestic politics of Nepal. Believe me when I say this to you, when one government is not in power, the one which is in opposition would say, if we come to power, we will sign hydropower projects with you. And it happens not with one political actor, various political actors. So it is like a carrot that is dangled in front of India then that, okay, if we come to power, we will resolve this issue. It is Nepal which has to resolve and keep this issue and keep their house in order. Do not bring it into the domestic politics of a country. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. With this, we have come to the end of the program. I would like to request Sudaina to give vote of thanks.
Yes, sir. Distinguished Speaker, Chair, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. As we come to the end of the program, I deem it a great honor to propose a vote of thanks on behalf of NICE to all who have graced us with their presence and contributed their parts to make this event a resounding success. First of all, I would like to sincerely thank our distinguished speaker, Lieutenant General Balanand Sharma, Dr. Deepak Bhattacharya, Dr. Bishnuraj Upreti, and Professor Sangeeta Thapliyal for agreeing to be the part of the event and delivering such a comprehensive and convincing presentation. We are really honored to have all the speakers with us here today. Our sincere thanks also goes to our chair for the evening, Ambassador Mohan Krishna Shrestha, and our moderator for today, Dr. Pramod Jaiswal. We would also like to acknowledge our gratitude towards our friend from the diplomatic community, experts, academia, media, and different organizations. And finally, I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for our audience who have joined us through Zoom and those who are also watching us through our Facebook page. Thank you for your valuable time and attention and for making the session a productive one with all your questions. We're truly honored to have you all with us this evening. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.